What is up, YouTube? 4Leaf Cards there. Hey, thanks for clicking. I am ending up here the end of my summaries for the National, and I saved a couple for a really good story. Started out with catching up with my buddy Dylan from Double D, and I was looking to buy some stuff. He was looking to buy some stuff, and when you get two guys together that are like that, it makes for a fun afternoon. I told him I was looking for some vintage, some stand-ups and some other things, and a 50 Bowman Yogi. And he said, I got this really nice vintage table. We got to go. I'm going to help you find it. We're going to get you some cards. And we set off on an adventure. And we started going down, and he's like, oh, you got to check out this guy that I bought some cards from. I forget what it was. It was some guys out of Pittsburgh. They were right across from Greenie's. And they had a really nice table. Prices were all like comps or less, and I think Dylan's talked about it, and they were willing to work. It's the same place where he got that Pee-wee, because I remember he looked at the Pee-wee, put it back, and it sounds like Saturday. He went back and got it. So anyway, at that table, I found my 1950 Bowman Yogi. And it was funny because I picked this up and I looked at it, like the colors are banging and the registration's really good. Sometimes you get it kind of looks a little blurry. I absolutely love this. Is like one of the most beautiful cards. I did that contest a while back. It almost looks like there's cows in the background, which I love, but they're not. They're actually just people kind of standing together that kind of look like cows. But I'm gonna just say they're cows because it makes me feel good. But I love how the mask almost looks like a life ring. But anyway, I picked out this card and it was like, wow, this thing is just gorgeous. And I handed it over to Dylan. What do you think? And he goes, it's off-centered. Throw it back. so I took another look at it, and it was exactly what I'm looking for. I like a well-centered card. I'm not going to lie. I do like a well-centered card, but this one's pretty clean. Corners are good. It does at least have some border on it, but the colors, the registration was just perfect. And I was actually having a hard time finding this card. There were a couple out there, but they were all beat up. And this one is in a 4, and I did not pay that. So paid a little bit less than that. I think it was I don't know, it's $350 or $360. But I thought that was a fair enough price for the absolute beauty that this card is. So checked it off the list. This was one of my targets. Got to do that with Dylan. I was just thrilled that he was there, even though he said throw it back. So he said, listen, I got this other table. We're going to find it. And he said, it's over here. We got to go over here. And so we walked. I should have had my step counter on because I think we walked for like 5 miles. We saw every part of the show. So that was in the back part of the main room. He's like, oh, it's around here somewhere. And then we ended up in the green carpet area. And I was also looking for a SP Jeter. And this one just caught my eye. The prices on these have come down. I obviously didn't pay that either. But this one, I don't know if that's on the case or what. But for the most part, it looked good enough. I don't need a 9 or a 10. I just wanted the card. And so I was willing to get one. Now, some of the 7s, you'll start seeing some really rough edges and corners and scratches. And this one looked pretty clean for a 7. It almost looks like an 8, maybe, I guess. So it presents well. And obviously the price was pretty good for what it is. And now I have that checked off my list. And that was another target. And got to buy that one with Dylan after he pulled a lot. I mean, he was, we were like squirrels going down the aisles. And, oh, look at that. Oh, can I take a look at that? And Dylan was throwing them all back. There were cards there that I thought, man, that's centered. I think he's going to buy it. And he's like, man, it's, 65-35. Like, holy moly. Got to be 50-50 for my man Dylan. So separate these out here. So I picked that one up in the green carpet area in the back, and easy to deal with dealer. And he's like, okay, we're going to find this. And then we went into the other room, the other big room. Actually, we moseyed through the middle room, and then we got to the big, over here somewhere. And we were looking around, and that other back room was fairly large too. And man, we went to nearly every booth there that had vintage. And he says, around here, so he's like, I'm off like 90 degrees or whatever. It was awesome. And we were just walking into that room, and I don't know if you guys that were there saw it, but they had these big, like, it almost looked like the Voltaire, like the get yourself a reading kind of thing, but they had they had made an atom bomb inside of it, and they were giving out. Well, they weren't giving them out, but you got to just scan the little code and then pay $5, and they give you a card. And I walked up to the booth, and I'm like, listen, I don't want to scan the thing. Can I just buy a card? And they're like, well, which one do you want? I was like, I don't even know what's in. I just want one of these Garbage Pail Kids just to say I have it. And they were like, well, there's 10. And I was like, well, what? What? I don't even know which one. I was like, I want atom bomb. I was like, well, you know what? Just give me all 10. So I just gave them $50, yeah, and just said, give me one of each. So I guess I haven't even looked at these. Nasty Nick, Weird Wendy, New Wave Dave, Stormy Heather, Rappin' Ruth. These are classics, man. Alan Al, Dead Ted, Frey Fran, Fry and Brian. And that's something I'll talk about in a minute. So they have the fortune on the back of them. So I thought that was just really cool. So national exclusive. I think it was, Cardsmith. So I don't know. They make like custom cards and stuff. So I bought the whole set. So I got that national, I think it's a national exclusive kind of thing that they were doing there. Just got it. And while I was there, they had these on the table. I haven't opened them up, but they make Bob Ross cards. Something about a chance to win a Bitcoin, or there's chases and stuff in here. So I don't know. We'll open that up on camera. And I said, you know what? Throw me in a Bob Ross one. And they said, oh, you spend enough money, you get a free pack. So we'll open that up at some point. But Dylan's just like, you just bought those cards? Like, yeah, man, I love them. He's like, man, I love you, man. You love cards so much. I'll never forget that. You love cards so much. It's so awesome. And so we had a good time there. And then, man, the show was ending. We went through that big room again, looking, again, pulling some stuff out, looking at stuff, throwing a bunch back. And I just couldn't find the darn stand-ups. And I had bought a Cepeda, so I had a copy. I just wanted an example of one. And we were about ready to give up. We're like, okay, let's just head out of here. And we were walking out of that big room, and Dylan's like, here it is, man, I found it. It's the table. They had neon stickers on everything. And he's like, this is it. So he started looking down at the one end of the table. And it was all the older stuff, the 30s and 40s. And I just wasn't targeting any of that. So I was like, I'll peruse around. They had like a booth that went around the corner. So I'll go around the corner. And there it was, right in the corner of a display, a stand-up. And I was like, oh, man, maybe another stand-up. I had looked at a couple Kofaxes and a couple mantles, but none of them were the right price. They're all too much. And there it was, sitting in the corner. This bad boy right here, Mr. Carl Yastrzemski. Short print card, and these things, if you're looking for them, they stand out like a neon light with the yellow and the green. And I pulled it out, and the guy had $700. And oh, by the way, it's a 6.5. And so I pulled up last comps, and these just don't sell. It's hard to get a beat on them. There's just not a lot of them being sold. I hadn't even seen another one. Turns out Keating was looking for one, and he saw 2 other ones. So I think, my best account, there were probably 3 of these at the entire show. And so the last PSA 6.5 sold for $620. So we were just apart, and I was like, can you do any better than that? The last one was $620, and he was hemming and hawing, and he knows it's a short print, right? So he said he'd come down to $650, and I don't know, it's still a lot of money to pay for a card, but I was in it, so I'm looking at the comps. I'm trying to look at 6s and look at 7s and trying to evaluate this thing and see if I'm in it. But in my mind, it was kind of like, you know what? You're not going to see another one, especially not in a 6.5 for $650. So $650 is probably not a horrible price because if I don't get it now, I probably won't get it. So I'm looking at comps. I'm looking on VCP. And I look over, and Dylan's got his cash out, and he's buying a card on the other side of the table. So I yell over him, like, Dylan, what are you doing? I thought we were going to bundle something together and get a deal on this card for me, too, And, the dealer's kind of laughing at us. And I said, listen, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to get one last negotiation in. I was going to offer $640, see if I could just squeak another 10 out of it. And as I said, you know what? Would you just take $640 for it? He came back and said, you know what? The last comp was $620. I'll give it to you for $625. And as he said $625, I said $640. And I took that $640 back. I put it back in my mouth, and I said, I heard you say $625. And then I couldn't get my money out quick enough for $625. So we got this for $625, which I think is, pretty darn fair price for a 6.5. It looks really good. A little bit, a couple things there on the edge, but I mean, it is nice and crisp, and one of the harder ones to get in a set. So I'm super happy with it. And Dylan and I were like taking pictures, like, you take a picture of my card, I'll take a picture of your card. It was just really awesome walking around with Dylan, having an adventure. And it was literally like we put the cash on the table for this one, and the people came over the speakers. The show is now closed. It was pretty cool that Friday night, just hanging out with Dylan for a couple hours, getting my steps in and looking at a lot of stuff, and finally getting this almost a grail card, really. It's not quite, but this is a tough one. So for my collection, pretty happy with it. So Dylan, man, if you're watching this, thank you so much. I had so much fun. These cards are going to be forever tied to you in my collection, and I appreciate that and all the time we got to spend hunting for cards that Friday evening at the show. So appreciate you guys watching, listening to the story. That's my favorite part about this, is making stories with people. So I guess if you guys are open anything, best of luck to you. Don't forget to collect to connect. This is what I'm talking about when I say that. And as always, have an awesome day.